Welcome back to Enjoy Every Sandwich. This is episode 2, Whatever Gets You By. I am still your host, Zach. And whether you listened to our first episode or watched our first episode, or this is the first time that you are watching or listening, thank you for taking the time. What's interesting is I actually recorded about 7.5 minutes of this episode. And I decided to look down at my microphone just to make sure that everything was okay. And I noticed the red light, which meant I was not talking to anyone except myself. And I went back and I played the video, and sure enough, the video was completely silent. So I feel like I lost a little bit of momentum, but we're just going to push through here. It's been kind of a long road between episode 1 and episode 2. Episode 1 was something that I recorded, and I wasn't sure if I was just going to leave it for myself or if I was going to, make it something that I wanted to release subsequent episodes, and whether or not there was a focus and a drive and some reason that people would want to come back and listen. And so I sat on that for quite a while, and I wasn't really sure, but I showed that episode to a couple of close friends, some family members, and everyone really liked it. And I really think that the people that I am friends with and the people that I surround myself with would not just sort of give me like false, like, oh hey, this is great, if it wasn't something that they enjoyed. I think they would be pretty unafraid to tell me that it wasn't good. So I sat on that some more, and then I decided that I was just going to do it. And it's something that helps me. And I've gotten messages from people, surprisingly people that I haven't spoken to in a long time, and they message me and thank me for doing it. And so that was really nice, and I think that helped push me into doing a second one. And so that's where we are now. I think for me, the focus of this show is going to be not only something for me, because episode 2 will just be me, but moving forward, I want to have people on here that I know that are open enough to come on and share their experiences and the things that they've gone through, because I think sometimes we can be a little bit locked into our own reality. I think we can walk around every day and think that the only problems in the world that matter are the things that are going on to us right now. And certainly that can't be the case, because there's millions upon millions of people in the world. And so why are your problems more important than the next person? And so for me, the most powerful stories that I've heard are ones that I've never experienced, because you're going through life, and everyone has a different upbringing, everyone has different experiences, people do different things in life, and so they go through things that you could never imagine. You could never imagine that happening to you. And so that to me, or those types of things to me, are the ones that resonate the most. And certainly, we all have common issues and common things that that happen to us, and being able to relate to people is really important, because I think it helps you get a better understanding that you're not. For me, I think a lot of these thoughts that go on in my head, it's like I think that I'm an insane human being, and no one's ever had these thoughts before. No one's ever gone through anything like this before, and it's like, probably everyone's gone through something very, very similar. And so it's a really grounding experience. It's something where you just you recognize that you're truly not alone. You really are never alone. There's always going to be someone out there um, that has gone through what you've gone through, or something similar. And so yeah, it's just been really helpful for me, and I want to take that feeling that I get when I have those, when I hear those stories and hear those experiences. I want to take that feeling, and I would love to share it with people. And so I think that's my focus moving forward after this episode, is to really capture that, and capture a moment in time in someone's life. And whether 10 people listen or 5, it's sort of irrelevant to me, because I like I said, the people that have reached out to me have it's helped them. So that to me is all that matters. And you know, recording on video, I'm always like, because you don't have to watch this. You can listen to it on whatever streaming platform. I should say that we right now, it's just me, but we are on Spotify, Stitcher, Amazon Music. I'm currently waiting for Apple Podcasts to approve it. I don't know why it's taken so long, but we'll see what happens. And then of course on YouTube. And so I think part of me is like, you can tell I haven't gotten a haircut since the last episode, and I'm going later. So I was like, oh, maybe I'll just record it later after my haircut. But I don't know. For some reason, at 7:45 in the morning, I just had the urge to do it. And I think for me, if I have the urge to do something, it's better to just do it, because I don't know when I'll have the motivation to do it again. So I just decided to do it. But I think that's sort of in the direction that I'm heading into, which what I want to make the focus of this episode is the things that I've done, or the coping mechanisms that I've learned to get through moments like that, where you come up with all these excuses not to do something, or you come up with all these reasons why, oh, I'll focus on that tomorrow. I'll get better on that tomorrow. Well, tomorrow, in the little description of this podcast, tomorrow is not a guarantee. So everything's got to be about today. And that's not to say you shouldn't plan for tomorrow, but you shouldn't think that you're always going to have an opportunity to improve, and you're always going to have an opportunity to work on something in the future. You've got to start working on something now. And so here we are. I sort of I want to talk about a lot of the things that I think are kind of, maybe they're touchy subjects. Like maybe there's just things that people are super uncomfortable about, but for me, it's the only way to get through it. And so that's going to be the focus of this episode. And I touched a little bit on I touched a lot on myself in episode 1, but one of the things I talked about was the issues that I was having in college before I actually came to California. And so for context, I grew up in Massachusetts, and Massachusetts and California, completely different places, different lifestyles, different people, different mindsets. So after college, where I was having some issues, I came to California, and it was a really great experience to learn about a new type of culture, and to meet new people, to meet just to meet a different way of living. It was really eye-opening for me. And I think the one thing that I've learned is that these thoughts and these feelings that you have, the negative ones, are not your fault. They're very involuntary. They could happen at the greatest moment in your life, or they could happen just driving to work, walking anywhere, and so despite all of the good things that happen, and that happened to me that summer, the thoughts start to creep in again. And so the first thing that really worked for me was getting a handle on eating healthy and getting some exercise, because I never looked at the nutritional value of anything when I was eating it growing up. I never, I never did. And so I when I was having these issues, I got my blood pressure taken, and it was like something ridiculous, like you should be dead kind of blood pressure. And I realized how much sodium I was eating, and like how much sodium was in the food that I was eating. And so like, for example, those cans of like the fake cheese that you dip chips in, there's like 3 days worth of sodium in one of those, and I might eat half of them, half of a can or something. It was just insane. And so the first thing that I started doing was watching my sodium intake, and then I found the Atkins Diet, which I bought the book and I read it from like front to back in like a day, and I really started focusing on that and cutting out carbs, and I was getting these measuring cups of and just putting like raw broccoli in there and going, okay, well, this is how much raw, and just using the raw broccoli as a snack. And I started exercising, and it wasn't a lot. I was just going out for like brisk walks, a little bit of jogging, and in 3 months, I managed to lose like 60 pounds, or something not necessarily like you would expect that to happen every single time. Because I've gone back and forth and lost 60 pounds a number of times, um, but that really kept things in focus. I had something to focus on, and that was the things that I was putting in my body. And I felt like the really healthy things, healthy food, healthy mind kind of thing. And it was just really helpful. It was something that for the first time, I was sort of taking control of the things that were happening to me, because, certainly I think this is perpetuated a lot in movies and film, and, having washboard abs is not necessarily a realistic goal, especially if you start so far behind. But just having some little bit of control of what you're putting in your body, and the choices that you're making, it can be a really powerful thing. And I think it's a difficult thing for some people to understand, because some people don't have, like my brother, for example, has just a metabolism that I'm not sure why it didn't end up inside of me. But like his metabolism is, he could eat a row of Oreos and he would lose 2 pounds the next day. So some people don't have that problem, but it can be really, really empowering to finally take control of that aspect of your life, and get out there and exercise. And exercise to me, was always something where I'd throw some music on and just go for a walk or something. And the good thing about the area I'm in is it's really hilly, and so you get a lot of different elevations, and you're pushing, and um, you're just putting your body through a really good exercise. And I think because you're alone and you're spending that time, you know just sort of with your own thoughts, I think you can process all of the things that are going on with you, through those moments. And it's just, to me, it just really helped me process a lot of the things that was going on, that were going on. So yeah, the dieting and exercise thing has been a big part of my life since then. It's been about 10 years. And I'm certainly not like where I want to be in terms of um, my weight and all that stuff. But uh, one thing I've learned is that binging on food, and binging on, let's say you drink alcohol or something, that is something that will give you some measure of joy in the moment, but for the long run, it's not going to help you. You're going to find yourself feeling even more helpless, because you're creating a whole nother set of problems for yourself. And it took me a long time to learn that. It really did, because I would, go on these things, do exercise, and then I'd lose a bunch of weight. And then it's like, oh, well, now I can go down and get a pizza by myself and just eat the whole thing. And it's definitely a yo-yo effect. But yeah, I think, for me, that was something that really worked. And so I did that um, really religiously for about a year, and that really helped me. And then during that period of time, I wasn't working, so I think that was my only focus. And so when I finally got that under control, I developed just this issue where I felt like I had to go to the bathroom all the time. Like I felt like I had to pee constantly, and so I would go, and then I would 2 minutes later I would have to pee. I would feel like I would have to pee again. And this was a recurring problem for about 6 months. And eventually I just decided, like, and I was going, like, I would go into the bathroom and I would say, okay, like I would just go and get it over with. And then it would happen again. And I would do it over and over and over until I finally was like, this is either a medical problem, or It's just something where I'm perpetuating, these thoughts, and I'm perpetuating this thing going on. So when I went to all the doctors or whatever, and we ruled out it was a medical problem, nobody ever said to me anything about it being a mental issue. Nobody, they prescribed me something, and they're like, oh well, it's probably an infection, you should just take this. And when that didn't work, I kind of figured out on my own that it was all in my head, and I started to ignore it. Um, and I can't say that it went away, but what did happen was that I finally, found a job that I started to work on a daily basis. And you know, I had never, like, I never had a job before that. My parents never made me get a job, or um, and that isn't a criticism or anything. It's just they never forced me to get a job, and so I didn't really quite understand what it was like to work a full-time job. And so when I started doing that, it gave me another focus. It gave me something to think about every day, all day long. And so I noticed, like, probably a week or two after working, that problem basically went away on its own. And it was just another example of, here's something that can take you away from constantly thinking about what's wrong with you. um, because I think that's a big part of it, is you sit around, and if you're not really doing anything, if you're just sort of living in this space where you're not very, like, I guess, for lack of a better word, mobile, you're just sort of existing. You can't really move past your problems, because you're just only and solely focused on on that. So that was really helpful for me. And it seems kind of silly, because you know the thing about it is, I didn't graduate college, so I wasn't looking for, for me, I was looking for, like, a career. I was looking for something that I could focus on, because college and school just was never my greatest strength. So I was looking for a career, something to focus on, and I managed to find that, which I felt pretty lucky, because it was in the same industry that my dad worked in, and he got me a job. And so I think just having, like, a vision and ideas and, like, goals, and it seems like a really simple thing, but I always had a hard time um, visualizing those things for myself. So in order for me to be able to do that, really pushed everything aside, and I was given a purpose. And that was great. That was another, like, you know epiphany moment for me, because I realized that there was more to life than these issues. But certainly, you could look at it from another perspective and say, well, it's just a distraction. I didn't really, and it's true, I didn't really deal with the problems. I didn't think about why these things were happening. I just thought about, these things are happening, and here's something that I can focus on instead of this thing. um, but you learn through time that you do have to face your problems. But yeah, certainly having a purpose, and starting to think about what life is going to be just for you, um, was something that really helped me. And to jump over into, like, activities and stuff like that, because I should say that you know there are still going to be things that come up, and still, um, to this day, I posted something on the Facebook page, and it was a little earlier, and I have been talking with a crisis text line, because these moments where you just feel completely overwhelmed, and unable to process, and unable to find your way. It's sort of like, having this ball of just, I don't know how to describe it, but it's sort of like your head is just cluttered with things, and you can't really sift through them. You can't even formulate a thought. And for me, I had one of those moments. I've had a lot of those moments lately, but I had one yesterday. And what happened yesterday was, um, to go back to the thing where I said that if you focus on eating food or drinking alcohol that isn't good for you, you can use that as a momentary relief, but it's not going to help you in the long run. And so I haven't really, uh, I certainly am not someone that drinks a lot, but I've noticed lately that I've really tried to stay away from it, because I find that it can be really easy to slip into moments where you're using it for those reasons. And so I had a little bit of alcohol yesterday, not very much, um, and I got very very emotional, and it made it so that I just couldn't really think about anything. Basically everything that I was going through in that moment just came to in one, and I was unable to sift through it. And so luckily for me, I found this crisis hotline, and really all you have to do, I think it's crisistextline.org, and all you have to do is text 741-741, and you just say like hello, and they connect you with somebody, and then you start talking. And it's not supposed to be a complete solution to your problems, but what they do really, really well is they sort of talk you off the ledge. Because I've reached out to a lot of friends and stuff, and when I'm feeling like that, but I hate to be someone that only reaches out to people when you're going through something, and I don't think that I am, but at the same time, I want to be cognizant of the fact that everyone has their own problems, and they might not always be emotionally available to help you and to deal with what you're dealing with, because a lot of times what you're dealing with is just so far like out of their scope at that moment. So it's really helpful for me to talk to somebody, and so I texted them, and they just they ask you questions, they talk you through what you're feeling. And in the past, I think I didn't have someone like, I didn't have an experience where this person that I was texting was helping me to come up with new methods of dealing with things. They just sort of talked me off a ledge, and they said, okay, well, here's some resources for you. But yesterday, the conversation went on for a while, and we spoke about just different things that were specific to my life that I could do, in moments, like just to get out, to get out of these feelings, and to just especially when you work remote, which I do. And I would say also for the times that we're in, the pandemic certainly has perpetuated and raised the amount of mental health issues that people are having, because they're oftentimes isolated, and just unable to even leave their apartment. And so um, I was like that for quite a while, probably until the vaccines came, and I'm still a little bit like that. But we spoke about just getting out of the house, like go for a walk for 10 minutes. And it's true, because really the most amount of exercise, besides the very underutilized treadmill that is propped up on the wall behind me, the only type of exercise or stuff that happens outside of the house is when I walk my dog a couple times a day. And so I think just getting outside and going for walks was one of the things that we spoke about. And so I want to stress that maybe talking to someone is not exactly your favorite thing to do in the world. And I was like that for a long time, but having the opportunity to text, like, let's say you don't want to call, like, I haven't called the suicide hotline before, because one of the interesting questions that people ask you is, have you had thoughts of suicide? And so, that was one of the questions that I was asked yesterday, and I said yes. I have had thoughts about not wanting to deal with the pain and the thoughts that I'm feeling. And then the next question that they ask is, how would you commit suicide? And I thought that was a really strange question. I wasn't like um offended, but I was sort of taken aback, like, well, that's really direct. And I had to think about it. And when I responded, I said, no, I have no idea. I really don't know, because, you know, it just never got so far for me to say, yep, I've picked out my method and I've picked out, what I would do and this and that and the other thing. And they really use that as a way to get your state of mind. And, if they think that you actually are, suicidal and intending on doing something, then they can sort of spring into action. Which I learned actually because at the end of my crisis hotline, crisis text line conversation, I decided that I was going to go into therapy. And so I contacted my insurance, and I decided to go through my insurance and find a therapist. And so one of the things that my insurance does is they ask you, why do you want to do this? And so you go through it. And I had this conversation with this person, and I said, this question was really kind of like, it was almost jarring and way too personal in a way. So she explained to me why they asked that. And I thought that was really interesting, because uh, I think I can personally feel a lot of shame reaching out, because while I might be feeling like I don't want to deal with something anymore, um, it's, it, I felt shame because I had never thought about how I would do it. And um, so I never felt like I was uh, in the right frame of mind to even call the suicide hotline. Like, I didn't feel like I didn't want to take away from someone that was really having a crisis. And I think that that level of shame that you feel is just something you have to get over, and it's not easy, and it takes time. But these people are here to help you, and I really can't like say enough about organizations and um, brands like that, the people like that. I can't say enough. If you're really really having a moment where you can't even push through enough to say, I'm going to take a walk and calm down, then there are things out there, there are places out there that you can call. You don't want to call and talk to somebody, you can text. You don't want to text somebody, you can get on your computer and you can type to them. There are so many things out there, and I really really encourage people to utilize them, because that's what they're there for. um, and so I think the biggest takeaway from all of this is that I decided to start therapy because I think in the past, although I am on an antidepressant, which has really helped me sift through a lot of the things that, um, a lot of the thoughts and a lot of the feelings, and, because I was really incapable of doing that before. And that was one of my biggest problems, was I would fixate on something and I wasn't able to push through it. But there are so many things that I just don't understand about myself, and so many things that I don't understand about the situations that I go through, and why I'm feeling a certain way about something, when I can recognize my thoughts. My brain has been able to process the things that have happened to me, but I can't get past the emotions of it, despite knowing that something is good or something is bad for me. So if I go through something and I can process, what happened, and I can say, okay, like, I I understand why this happened now. I understand why this wasn't a good thing for me, or I understand why this wasn't a good thing for another person. I can recognize that, and it's completely logical, but I can't move past the emotions. Why? What is it that I'm upset about? What is it really that is bothering me? And I think there are just so many things that people don't understand about themselves through their past experiences, through the things that they've gone through. And that's where therapy is going to hopefully help me understand a little bit more about the things that I fixate on and the things that bother me, because I think I don't want to be burdened by the emotions any longer. I don't why I just, it seems unnecessary. If your brain is telling you one thing but your body is telling you another, why can't I connect the two? So I'm really looking forward to that. I haven't gone through it yet, but I have people that I've spoken to that go to therapy, and they talk about it religiously. It's really important to them. And so for me, yeah, I'm just really looking forward to it, and I hope that if someone else has been thinking about it, or if someone else is curious about whether it would help them or not, I think all you can do is just try it. If you try it once and you hate it, at least you tried it. And a lot of times insurance will pay for it. You just go in and you might pay a deductible or whatever, but it's not like you've got to pay so much money to get these experiences. I think it's just something that you should try once. And if it helps you, it helps you, and if it doesn't, it doesn't. But it's just sort of another one of those things where it's like, I am willing to try anything to get my mind off of whatever XYZ. And I think that's really important. So I'm looking forward to that. Um, some of the smaller things that have helped me, music is really important to me, and I think I've sort of fixated a lot on lyrical content. My favorite person in any of my favorite bands is always the singer, and maybe that's like my pipe dream one day, was to be like the lead singer of a band, or like capable of writing meaningful words that connect with people. And so I think there's two ways to look at it, right? There's the lyrics that are pretty straightforward, and the things that you throw in the car and you imagine yourself screaming at another person, or just yelling out the window or something, like Rage Against the Machine, fuck you, I won't do what you tell me, that kind of thing. And then there's the ambiguity and the lyrics that are sort of left up to interpretation, and those I think are my favorite, because of all the things that you go through, you can look at songs in five different ways, and you can take away something from any song and apply it to all five of those things that you go through. And they all apply, it applies in different ways each time. I really like that. I also really like when you know the person that writes lyrics doesn't tell you what they're writing about. They do, because that kind of ruins it. Say like, oh, I think someone wrote a song about, I don't know, breakup, or someone wrote a song about drug abuse, drug addiction, and then they come out and they say, oh no, like uh, I just like I just wrote this song because I saw a fly in a jar. Like, there's really nothing to it at all. So for me, I imagine um, things that the lyrics can apply to different situations in life. That, to me, music has been something a lot of times really saved me uh, from really negative thoughts, and so important. It's expression, and the best kind of music obviously brings up emotions inside of you, and that doesn't even have to be lyrics, doesn't have to be anything. It can be guitar playing. That's what a lot of guitar players will say is, I'm no good with words. I speak through my guitar. And sometimes, like, like Eddie Van Halen or Slash, Page, a lot of guys, you can almost you can feel what they're feeling. They say some of these songs, um, and it's the magic of music. It's unspoken, it's unwritten, in word format, but you can just hear it and feel it throughout your whole body. And music is really important to me. And that's something that if I'm gonna go ahead and throw on some music to get me through something, then that's to me that's the greatest thing. Like, I throw it on when I'm exercising because I'm sure a lot of people do, but it gets you through it. So music. um I really like to watch TV and movies and stuff, and I find myself binging like TV shows. And again, here's like a craft, like acting and writing and bringing words to life, and just things that people are able to do on screen that can touch you and affect you. I find myself going through periods of time where I'll binge watch, 3 seasons of a show in a week or something, and then I won't watch TV for a while. Um, but it's just, you're able to sort of transport yourself into another world, and it's just another way to sort of get away from, you know, reality for a little bit. Because even though I do think that we have a tendency to distract ourselves a little too much, sometimes a distraction is really helpful. Um, but yeah, I just think like for me, I'm open to any kind of experience. I have had a lot of fears, like I spoke about in episode one, being afraid of flying. Um, and that sort of manifested itself in being afraid to be on a boat, being afraid to be anywhere basically that isn't on land. And I think facing your fears like that can also be important because, if you get on a plane, and they say this, like, oh, a plane is the safest mode of travel. And it's true because I drove across the country twice, and I drove through some really like crazy storms in like Wyoming or whatever, where it's like I can't even see more than 5 feet in front of me. And you know, airplanes have radar and people on the ground and this and that, and it's just tried and true and safe. And I think just facing your fears in baby steps, certainly. Like I used to love boats, used to love them, and then I think I became afraid of like going fast. So another thing I spoke about was like sitting in the passenger seat of a car. I couldn't like look out the window because we're just going too fast and I couldn't deal with it. And it was a speed thing. And then on a boat, especially in the San Francisco area, it's very choppy out there because of the wind. And so the ferries are often like going up and down and up and down. And it would just sort of go to my head. And I became afraid of that. But, every once in a while, it's like, you know what? I'm just going to take a ferry ride, and I'm just going to, whenever I have the feeling to do it, I've done it. And it might not be the greatest experience in the moment, but I know that every subsequent time that I do it, it's going to get easier. And so facing your fears like that, whatever your fear might be, I think is really important because why are you afraid of it? What is the thing? I went I went rock climbing one time last summer, and I kept trying to climb the wall, and I kept getting higher, I think, every time, but it was like I would reach a certain point and my body would just stop me. And it was like I can see it, I can do it. Like I know that I can go higher, but my body would not let me. And so in that moment, I realized I was afraid of heights. Um, and I'd love to try it again. I would love to try and do that again. But um yeah, just getting to the bottom of why. Why am I afraid of heights? Especially if I'm in an indoor rock climbing gym, tethered to another person and like wearing all of this gear. Like what's the fear? Um so yeah, and certainly I have a lot of work to do in that regard myself, but facing your fears and getting through those, just trying to understand why you're afraid of something. That's really important. So, you know, these are all things that I've used, and I've been using, um, and I suspect that more will pop up, especially as I start therapy. I'd really like to get a handle on, some of these really intense moments and emotions that I feel sometimes, because, it can be crippling. Yesterday, I spent an hour in one spot, and I could feel that I had to go to the bathroom, and I just couldn't get up, and I was staring at the wall, and yeah, it was interesting. And then the moment passes, but it's like, why do you feel that way? Why can't you get up and move? But you don't really have any control over it. So um yeah, there's so many things that pop up, and hopefully, um as I discover more things, and as we go into our next couple episodes where I start to talk to people and get an understanding of what they go through, and what methods they use to push them through those moments, hopefully, there's something that we can all grab onto. So I know, it's been a little bit of a diatribe, a little loose. Hopefully, this episode was helpful for people. Hopefully, you were able to take a few things out of that. But I'm really looking forward to episodes 3, 4, 5, however many come out. I'm really looking forward to getting a chance to speak to other people and to learn about them. So hopefully, anyone that's listening, is excited about that as well. And until next time, yeah, until next time.